It starts with the image of a man lying on the grass, his face barely visible under the shadow of a hovering helicopter. A few crumpled dollar bills are scattered near his body, tossed around by the gust of wind from the chopper above. It's the kind of image that freezes time. You don't know what just happened or what's about to, but you know something went very, very wrong. We're pulled back, suddenly, away from that tension, away from that scene, and into a quiet little town in Texas. It's Halloween. Kids fill the streets in costume, laughing and running from house to house, their buckets heavy with candy. It's one of those picture-perfect nights where everything feels simple and sweet, but not for everyone. Inside the Perry household, it's a different kind of evening. The living room is calm, the atmosphere almost too quiet compared to the outside world. Inside, you can feel the weight of something more rigid, more rule-bound. The mother, Gladys Perry, sits at the kitchen table, her Bible not far from her hand. Her family listens as she gently explains why they don't celebrate Halloween. It's not about fun or costumes, she says. It's about faith. As Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe they're called to live on a higher spiritual level, one that doesn't include worldly holidays. Then the doorbell rings. Outside, a group of giggling children shout, "Trick or treat." Gladys gets up and opens the door. She smiles kindly and speaks softly, but her message is firm. We don't celebrate Halloween. The kids look confused, some disappointed. She closes the door. And here's the first little warning sign. The first red flag, you could say. That boy, young Philip, already has it tough. Now, the one night a year where he might have escaped the rules, had a little fun, gotten candy, that's taken off the table too. You start to feel for him. Childhood without holidays? It's like growing up with your own personal Grinch in the next room. Not far away, we meet another man, Larry Billings, a prison guard. He's just stopped by the prison to grab some paperwork, something he needs to take home. It's supposed to be a quiet stop, in and out. But deep in the prison, two inmates, Butch and Terry, are working their own plan. They're hunched over a rough blueprint with an older prisoner, trying to figure out the air vents. Where do they lead? How wide are they? It's clear, something big is coming. They're planning a breakout. And just like that, it begins. They crawl through the ducts, cold metal echoing under their weight. The vents lead them straight past security. And then they're outside. Somehow they've made it out. Die Hard style. Butch turns to Terry and says it straight. Once we reach the state line, we split. No affection, no loyalty, just raw truth. They hate each other. Terry nods, feels the same. They make their way to town in a car they hijacked. One that Larry, the guard, had been driving. He was forced to help. Now that he's no longer useful, they push him out and search for a better car. But Terry gets distracted. He catches a whiff of breakfast, real breakfast, coming from one of the nearby houses. The Perry house. Without warning, he storms through the back door and into the kitchen. He's got a gun. Gladys gasps, frozen in place. And then Terry grabs her. He forces her against the counter and tries to kiss her hard, disgusting. She fights back with everything she has, screaming, struggling. And just then, Philip walks in. The boy's eyes go wide. He barely gets a word out before Terry slaps him. Hard. Sends him flying. Butch sees red. He punches Terry once hard, right in the head. It's so powerful, Terry's ears start bleeding. But that only enrages him more. The moment hangs there, raw and ugly. Butch turns to Philip and says something unexpected. Calm, like a game. Pick up a gun, kid. Point it at me. Say stick him up. It's sick, twisted. But the boy does it. He doesn't know what's real and what's playing anymore. Just then, a neighbor, eyes wide with panic, charges in with a rifle. He's come to save the family. Butch didn't panic when the neighbor burst through the door with a rifle. In fact, he barely flinched. With Philip still holding the gun in his small, trembling hands, Butch raised a hand and spoke with a calm that cut through the tension like a knife. He asked the man to lower the weapon, warning him softly, not shouting, that a stray bullet could end the boy's life in an instant and ruin the mother's life forever. The neighbor, suddenly realizing the gravity of the situation, hesitated. Then, slowly, he lowered the rifle. It wasn't surrender, it was fear. and maybe common sense. That quiet exchange, the threat of violence, and the quick de-escalation will become a pattern we'd see over and over throughout this strange and uneasy story. Without another word, Butch and Terry grabbed Philip and ran. They shoved him into the same stolen prison guard's car and sped off into the fading Halloween night, leaving Gladys standing on the edge of the road like a statue, frozen in shock, heartbroken, her son disappearing into the darkness. Her hands trembled. She didn't scream. She didn't chase. She just stood there, helpless, asking herself the one question that had no answer. How do I get him back? Somewhere else, a whole different world was in motion. Inside the state office of the Texas Rangers, Red Garnet was on the phone with the governor, listening to orders he didn't care for. He wasn't the kind of guy who liked outside help, but help had arrived anyway, in the form of Sally Gerber, a young criminologist sent down from Huntsville to assist with parole and escapee cases. She introduced herself politely. Red barely looked at her. The governor had also arranged something else, a brand new, over-the-top truck and trailer equipped with all the latest tech. The kind of setup that looked more like it belonged at a campaign rally than in a police chase. It had bunting, shiny decals, gadgets everywhere, like James Bond had gone shopping at Hobby Lobby. They loaded up the flashy rig, prepping to head out, and just before they pulled away, FBI agent Bobby Lee showed up to join the search party. Sally almost got left behind. Not that anyone was eager to bring her, but someone finally noticed, and they let her in the van. Meanwhile, Butch, Terry, and their young hostage were on the move, looking for a place to lay low. Terry thought maybe his cousin could help. Butch agreed, but cautiously. To make sure Butch and the boy didn't ditch him, Terry kept the car keys before heading off. Not the smartest move, though. Terry flipped through a dusty phone book in the middle of a fugitive run, hoping to find his cousin's name. No luck. It was desperation disguised as strategy. I mean, trying to find help using a phone book mid-escape is like trying to fix a sinking boat with duct tape. Back in the car, Butch kept his eyes on Terry, suspicious of his every move. This whole dynamic, the force partnership, was wearing thin. Terry was becoming a liability. Worse, he wouldn't shut up. He just kept ranting, insulting everything and everyone around him. It was exhausting. At some point, Butch snapped. He leaned back and told Philip to take the wheel. The kid hesitated but obeyed. While Philip steered the car, Butch turned and without warning smashed Terry's nose in one clean punch. It was brutal, but necessary. Later, they pulled into a small roadside store. Butch handed his gun to Philip and told him to keep it pointed at Terry while he went inside. You could see it in his eyes. This was about trust and a lesson in control. Inside, while Butch shopped, Terry tried to work his old tricks. He leaned into Philip with that same creepy smile and mocking tone, saying, kind of puny, "Ain't it?" When Philip didn't react, Terry reached for him. Big mistake. The boy lashed out, bit his hand hard, and ran. He sprinted across the road and disappeared into the thick rows of a cornfield, the gun still clutched in his hand. Terry panicked. He followed, but he didn't notice that Butch had caught on and was already watching. In that silent maze of corn, Butch found Philip first. The boy looked up at him and handed the gun back without a word. Butch knelt down and told him to wait by the car. "Don't come out till I'm back," he said. Then Butch turned and went after Terry. When he found him, there was no yelling, no warnings. He caught him off guard, raised the gun, and without hesitation, shot him right in the face. As they stepped back into the car, the store owner rushes out holding a rifle, clearly shaken by what just happened inside. Butch doesn't flinch. He steps out slightly, keeping his tone steady and his movements slow. There's a moment of eye contact, not defiance, just calm control. "Lie down on the floor in your shop," Butch says quietly. "Stay there till we're gone." The man hesitates for only a second before doing exactly what he's told. There's something in Butch's presence, not just the gun, but his focus, that demands obedience without the need for yelling. With the storekeeper safely out of the way, Butch and Philip climb back into the car and drive off, leaving no trace but tire marks in the gravel and a stunned man lying on a dusty linoleum floor. Meanwhile, Red Garnet and his team receive the latest updates on the fugitives. It's confirmed, one of the escapees is dead. That means they're only chasing one now. Sally, trying to be helpful, suggests setting up an auxiliary roadblock. She figures the men might split up. It's logical, smart. But only one roadblock is actually set. Not two, not three, just one. Red doesn't hide his irritation when she pushes the point. To him, she's a tag-along, book smart, sure, but unproven. They get into a low-simmering argument about roles and respect. Red tells her that strength and a sense of humor are what matter out here in the real world. Sally snaps back, insisting she's not incompetent. She doesn't need anyone to carry her. She just wants to do her job properly. Red, grudgingly, tells her he's in charge, but adds, almost as an afterthought, that he'll consider her ideas next time. Out on the road, far from the tension of law enforcement command trailers and egos in khaki, Butch and Philip are growing more comfortable with each other. It's strange in a way. Two strangers, one a boy barely old enough to drive, the other a man with a gun and a record, sitting together, sharing an RC Cola like old friends. They don't say much at first. Then Butch leans over and tells Philip the car isn't just a car, it's a time machine. The boy gives him a skeptical look, but Butch goes on. Think about it, he says. The gas pedal, that's your future. You push it, you move forward. The brake pedal, that's the present. You stop, you sit still. In a way only Butch could manage. He turned a stolen car into a metaphor about life. About choosing to go forward or pause. About deciding where and who you want to be. As they drive, Butch says they'll need to switch cars again, preferably a Ford, to keep ahead of the law. And soon enough, fate provides. They spot a Ford parked beside a quiet house, tucked away off the main road. Butch tells Philip to treat it like a game, like they're playing cowboys and Indians. He sends him sneaking over to see if the keys are inside and if the car's got a radio. Philip crouches, moves quietly like he's in a spy movie, and gives Butch a thumbs up. Keys and radio? Check. But before they can get away, Philip mentions he needs to pee. Butch waves him toward a tree, joking gently about hostage etiquette. Always let the kid pee, he mutters to himself. Builds trust. Cuts down on complaints. While the boy's occupied, Butch walks over to a nearby clothesline, looking for something a little less conspicuous than prison denim and oversized shirts. He finds a pair of pants that'll fit Philip and some shirts for himself. But before he can finish, the farmer who owns the property spots him. Suspicious, the man hops off his tractor and starts running toward them, yelling. Butch sprints back toward the Ford, fumbling with the ignition, trying to hotwire it before the farmer catches up. It's not working. The farmer's closed now. Too close. But that's when Philip jumps in. Still barefoot from behind the tree, he lunges at the man and sinks his teeth into his hand. The farmer screams, yanking back. It's enough. Butch gets the engine to roar to life. They tear away down the road, wind whipping past their faces. Back with Red's team, they're arguing about how to handle local civilians. Should they be encouraged to shoot the fugitive if they have a clean shot? Red and Sally are united on this one. Absolutely not. Not with a child in the car. No shots unless absolutely necessary. Back in the Ford, Butch looks over at Philip. The boy's quiet now, staring out the window. Butch finally breaks the silence. So, your dad, he's gone too? Philip nods. They sit in that understanding, wordless but deep. Then Butch chuckles softly. Well, we have some things in common then, don't we? We're both good looking. We both like RC Cokes. He trails off for a second, then adds quietly, and our dads ain't worth a damn. They're on their own and seek foolish destiny. It doesn't take long before Red and his team make it to the location where the stolen car was abandoned. They work fast, surrounding the vehicle and prying open the trunk. What they find inside chills even the most seasoned among them. The lifeless body of prison guard Larry Billings, stuffed like discarded luggage. Sally turns away almost instantly, her stomach giving up the fight. She bends over, retching in the weeds by the roadside. Red, though usually hard-edged and no-nonsense, takes a moment. He says nothing, but his expression softens for just a second. A sliver of compassion peeks through his usual shell. Meanwhile, Butch and Philip are back on the move. Butch decides it's time they get a little more prepared, so he gives Philip a temporary alias, Buzz. It fits. A little sharp, a little fast. Buzz. Sounds like a name a kid might enjoy. With that, They head to a small local store called Friendly's. Butch has a shopping list. Some clean underwear, pants, rope, and duct tape. But while he's looking around, young Buzz finds something else entirely. A leftover Halloween costume of Casper the Friendly Ghost, hanging quietly on a rack like it was waiting for him. It's a small moment, but one that hits hard. In a world full of very real monsters, this kid chooses to be a ghost, something harmless, invisible, almost safe. Either that's the boldest move ever, or it's just the innocence of a kid who's seen too much too fast. Either way, it's strangely moving. He pulls the costume down, slips the mask on, and spins around to show it off to the saleswoman. He tells her it's a bandit costume. She laughs. Maybe she thinks he's joking. Maybe he isn't. But outside, things are getting tense. A local cop spots the car and starts tailing the scene. Trouble is circling. Inside, the store clerk flirts with Butch, who stays charming but distant. When she gives him the receipt, he slips her a generous tip, part gratitude, part misdirection. But the store manager, Mr. Willits, isn't buying the act. As soon as he starts dialing the police, Butch throws him a look, one of those silent warnings that needs no words. The kind of stare that stops a man mid-sentence. Outside, the pressure mounts. Butch quickly scoops Buzz up on the way out. The saleswoman, now seeing the stolen costume in Buzz's hand, urges him to give it back or the cops will arrest him. For a moment, the boy hesitates. He wants it, badly, but something inside tells him it's wrong. Still, he makes a choice. He runs toward Butch, climbs into the vehicle, and they speed off. As they peel away, Butch calls out the window to the saleswoman. Even though the store's called Friendly, they ain't so friendly. Then he fires a shot at the glass, shattering it in a reckless act of rebellion. And just like that, Butch and Buzz aren't just on the run. They're a team now. A real pair of outlaws, bound by circumstance and a little shared mischief. They drive until they reach a remote barn and hide behind it, letting the chaos settle. The silence between them is a little heavier now, the adrenaline still fading. Butch turns to Buzz and lets out a sigh. He tells him that, yeah, stealing is wrong, usually. But sometimes when the world's tilted and nothing's fair, maybe borrowing something to feel like yourself again isn't the worst thing. He encourages Buzz to put the costume on. The boy hesitates, self-conscious. When Butch notices the reason, he chuckles gently and tells him, "You're fine, kid. That's about right for your age." Buzz grins, relieved, and slips into the costume. Casper the Friendly Ghost, reborn on the road. Back in the pursuit vehicle, Red and Sally keep tracking them. Sally brings up Butch's background, a bleak tale. His mom died by suicide. His dad walked out. When he was just 8, he killed a man who had hurt his mother. After that, he stayed off the radar for years, until he stole a car and landed in prison. Sally looks out the window, thoughtful. Where they're going, she says quietly, is not important. But why they're going there is very important. Somewhere along the road, Butch begins teaching Buzz, or rather, Philip, the basics of map reading. Just the two of them, like a mismatched pair of outlaws trying to make sense of the world through folded paper and compass lines. Not long after, they pass a trailer parked by the roadside. Butch, feeling playful, suggests they wave, just for the fun of it. Turns out, that trailer belongs to the team hunting them, Red, Sally, and the rest of the manhunt crew. Inside, Sally catches a glimpse of the Casper costume. It takes her a second, but it clicks. That's the kid. She alerts Red immediately. The trailer jerks into motion, tires screeching as the team tries to double back. The chase is on. Butch doesn't flinch. He doesn't speed up, doesn't panic, just keeps driving steady as ever. Inside the trailer, things aren't so smooth. The man in the passenger seat warns the driver to ease off, says the trailer can't handle much more. But the driver, ticked off by Butch's sheer nerve, slams the gas instead. Bad idea. Moments later, the trailer detaches from the truck. No one notices until it's too late. The governor's high-tech rig, decked out like some Bond villain's command center, coasts off on its own, straight into the woods. And then boom, it crashes into a tree, splintering like a cheap prop in a slapstick movie. Everyone's fine, but Red is fuming. They've lost both the criminals and the damn trailer. Elsewhere, in a perfectly timed PR stunt, The governor assures the cameras that Buzz is doing just fine. Says it with a grin that doesn't reach his eyes. To him, this whole thing is just optics. A performance. Back with the fugitives, Butch gives Buzz a choice: stick with the car or walk. He tells the boy he's headed for Alaska. Buzz does the math and decides 1,500 miles is a bit much on foot. Supplies are running low too: soda, gum, and half a moon pie. Not exactly survival-grade rations. So they decide to hoof it, keeping an eye out for a better ride. Red, meanwhile, gets word that the governor wants the trailer back. Red doesn't mention the tree. Later that night, in a strange and slightly twisted attempt at childhood normalcy, Buzz goes trick-or-treating. The irony isn't lost. A Jehovah's Witness kid celebrating Halloween after the fact, dressed as a ghost, with a wanted fugitive by his side. Butch gives him tips on how it's done. They knock on the door of a woman's house deep in the countryside. She opens up and tells them they missed it. Halloween's over. Popcorn balls are gone. Candy too. But when she notices the gun Butch carries, her mood changes. Suddenly, she's generous. Gives them everything she can, even her purse. They head back to the car and feast on the spoils. Mustard sandwiches slapped together by Buzz right on the dashboard. Later, while Butch goes to scope out a roadblock, Buzz stays behind in the car. The boy fiddles with the pedals, accidentally sending the vehicle rolling down the slope. Panic sets in. The car's barreling straight toward another vehicle by the roadside. Somehow, Buzz figures it out just in time. Slams the right pedal. Stops it cold. Butch comes running, relieved. The man whose car was almost hit listens to their rushed explanation. Something about bad brakes. Butch plays it cool, apologetic. The man, out on a family picnic, buys the story and offers them a ride. Just two strangers needing help. As they load into the back seat with the family's kids, the roadblock looms ahead. Butch pulls Buzz in close, cradling him like a concerned father. It works. The checkpoint officers don't question a thing. Just another family heading down the highway. Then, just when it seems like they've made it, one of the kids spills a drink on the seat. The mother, stressed, flustered, lets loose. A curse, a quick prayer, and then a slap across the child's head for spilling something in the new car. Butch's mood shifted the moment the woman hit her kid in that back seat. His face darkened, not with rage, but with something heavier, like old memories bubbling up in silence. He asked Bob to pull over, calmly but firmly, and just like that, he told the family to get out. Right there, in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but dust and wind. Suitcases hit the ground, and the bewildered family stood on the roadside, watching as their car, now in Butch's hands, kicked up gravel and disappeared. Later, we see them trudging down the road, tired and humiliated, stumbling toward a nearby checkpoint where a few patrol cars sit idling. The officers glance up as the family approaches on foot, a quiet picture of confusion and misplaced trust. Back at the busted trailer, Red and his team are running on empty, and tempers are simmering. They find steaks and a bag of frozen tater tots tucked away, and for a moment, the manhunt pauses for something that feels like camping. Red takes over the grill like an old scoutmaster, flipping meat and grumbling about the state of things. Inside, Bobby Lee has other plans, leaning in towards Sally with that slow, sleazy smile that says he's forgotten they're here to do a job. Sally shuts him down quick, but before things get too awkward, Red bursts in like clockwork, asking Sally how she takes her steak. Perfect timing, really. One more minute, and Bobby Lee would have found himself with a black eye and a harassment charge. Red levels his eyes at the agent and lays it down simple. They're here to work. No flirting, no distractions. Out on the open road, Butch and Buzz are having a very different kind of conversation. Buzz, still dressed in his ghost costume, starts asking questions about his faith, about why he can't do this or celebrate that. Butch listens, then decides to show him a little piece of life he's missed. He lets the boy ride up on the roof of the car, wind in his face, joy in his eyes. For a moment, there's no kidnapping, no chase, just a boy learning what fun feels like. They stop for dinner at a quiet roadside spot. The waitress is quick with her eyes and her smile, and Butch doesn't shy away. She flirts. He flinches a little. It's been a while since anyone looked at him like that. At the bar, they make small talk. Butch spins a story, says Buzz isn't really his, that he and his wife adopted the boy after the birth mother gave him up. Said the wife passed away, and now it's just the two of them. The waitress softens, buys into it, maybe sees something tender in the rough edges. He tells Buzz to head outside and play with some rocks. But kids, well, they're curious. Buzz doesn't go far. He watches from the shadows, eyes wide as Butch and the woman share a kiss. It's innocent enough, but it rattles the kid. Later, back on the road, the air in the car is different. Buzz breaks the silence with that question only kids can ask so plainly. Did you love her? Butch hesitates, then shrugs. It just felt good, he says. Maybe that's love. The honesty stings more than it soothes. They pull off the road and find a cornfield to rest in for the night. Under a sky full of stars, Buzz whispers that he wants to go home. Butch listens, promises he'll get him there, then tells the boy to make a list of everything he wants to do. Cotton candy, amusement parks, real Halloween maybe. Butch says he'll try to help him get there. Elsewhere, Red and Sally are having their own conversation under the moonlight. She asks about Butch's past, if Red was sheriff back when the kid got sentenced. Red nods, says Butch's father was a no-good criminal, and the system figured it was best to lock the boy up before he turned out the same. There's regret in his voice, not just for the decision, but maybe for how little that choice changed anything. Meanwhile, out in the fields, a sharecropper named Max stumbles upon Butch and Buzz, tucked low in the corn. He's cautious, but kind, and offers them a place to sleep. Butch agrees, sensing it's a temporary peace, one they might need before the storm comes again. The morning started quietly, with the scent of frying food in the air and the low murmur of conversation. But it didn't take long for things to sour. During breakfast, Butch and Buzz sat across the table from their hosts, Mac, his wife Lottie, and their young grandson, Cleve. The peace was broken in an instant when Mac suddenly struck the boy for no clear reason. No warning, no explanation, just a slap across the back of his head. And then he went back to eating like it was just part of the routine. Buzz froze, unsure what to do. Butch, on the other hand, went stiff. His eyes narrowed. He didn't say anything, not yet, but you could tell it rubbed him raw. That kind of cruelty, it hit a nerve, deep. Later that day, Butch tried to shift the mood. He showed Cleve a little gymnastic move called skinning the cat. Something fun, something free. The boy laughed, even if only briefly, and Butch smiled in return. Then he found himself opening up to Lottie, the older woman with kind eyes. He told her things he hadn't said out loud in years, about his childhood, about growing up in a brothel, about watching his mama dance through a haze of music and broken promises. At some point, Butch dug out a stack of old 45s. The needle dropped, and the sound of crackling vinyl filled the house. He called everyone in, Lottie, Cleve, Buzz, and soon they were dancing in the living room, spinning in and out of warm, golden light. For a moment, it felt like things might be okay. Just for a moment. But then the radio crackled. A broadcast about a manhunt. Names, descriptions, and Mac froze mid-step. He put the pieces together too fast. The moment shattered. Butch saw it in his eyes, the shift from curiosity to fear to suspicion. And just like that, everything changed. Butch pressed him. "You gonna say something?" he asked. Mac didn't answer. That was all it took. In a flash, Butch knocked Mac off his feet and pinned him down. The gun came out. Butch stood over him, shaking with something that wasn't quite rage, more like old pain flaring up all over again. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you do that to him? What did that boy ever do to you?" Mac didn't respond. He couldn't. Not long after, Mac and his whole family were tied up, mouths taped shut, sitting like statues in their own home. Butch paced the room, trying to justify what he was about to do. In his mind, he wasn't the villain here. He was righting a wrong, protecting Cleve, doing something no one ever did for him. But Buzz, little Buzz, now watching everything unfold, was no longer sure. He saw a different side of Butch now. Not the funny, rebellious outlaw who let him ride on the roof. This Butch was unpredictable. Dangerous. Buzz's hands trembled. Quietly, he reached for the gun Butch had left just out of reach. And then, in one heartbreaking second, he pulled the trigger. The shot rang out through the quiet house, echoing like thunder. Butch staggered, gripping his stomach, eyes wide with disbelief. Buzz was crying, sobbing as he dropped the gun, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He couldn't take it. He bolted outside, flung the weapon into the old well out back, and tossed the car keys on the ground. Then he ran, through dirt paths and worn fences, away from the chaos, away from the man who had somehow become both a protector and a threat. Back inside, Butch was bleeding bad. But even then, he didn't lash out. He didn't chase them in anger. Instead, he left his pocket knife on the table, a small gesture of mercy so Mac's family could free themselves when the time came. Then he pulled himself up and limped out, one hand pressed to his side, the other steadying himself against the wall. Outside, Philip, Buzz, crawled under a fence, his Casper costume torn and flapping behind him like a flag in the wind. He ran through the field, heart pounding, lungs burning, trying to escape everything. Butch followed, calling after him, voice hoarse but still holding on to whatever connection remained. "You're a hero," he called out. "You hear me? A damn hero. And if you stick with me, you can drive the next leg. Just keep being my running buddy." Philip climbed the old oak tree without looking back. Every branch he pulled himself onto, widening the distance between him and the man he once saw as something close to a hero. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His eyes said it all. Fear, confusion, grief. The boy had seen something in Butch that shook him, and now he just wanted to be somewhere Butch couldn't reach. Down below, Butch stood bleeding in the tall grass, one hand pressed tight to his gut, trying to hold himself together. He looked up at Philip, breathing raggedly, voice cracking under the weight of pain, and everything left unsaid. "Come on down, partner," he said, trying to smile through the blood. "We still got Alaska." There was no threat in his voice. No anger, just a strange, haunting gentleness, like a man who knew the road had run out, but still hoped for one last mile. He reached into his pocket with trembling fingers and pulled out the postcard, reading aloud the notes scribbled on the back. Something about cold skies, wide open land, and dreams too big to hold in a cell. His voice quivered. The words hung heavy in the air, and somehow that was enough. Philip, tears lining his cheeks, slowly made his way back down the tree. He stood there in front of Butch, small and shivering, and wrapped his arms around him tight. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." Butch held him close, his hand resting on the boy's back. "Don't be," he murmured. "I'm glad it was you, not some stranger." The moment didn't last. Suddenly, the area erupted with sirens and shouting. Flashing lights painted the fields. Police cars formed a semicircle. Guns raised. Orders barked. From the chaos, Bobby Lee emerged with a scoped rifle, locking eyes on the scene through a lens of suspicion. He knelt down, ready to fire. From behind a megaphone, Red's voice boomed across the field. "Butch Haynes, listen up. Let the boy go and walk out slowly." Tension thickened in the air like fog. And then, from the sky above, the unmistakable sound of helicopter blades. Gladys, Philip's mother, descended like an angel in the storm. She ran toward the scene, screaming for her son, desperate to hold him again. In a voice barely holding together, Butch leaned toward Philip. "Ask her," he said. "Ask if she's going to let you trick or treat. Go to the fair." "Live, kid." Philip nodded, voice shaking as he shouted. "She lets me do stuff. She's a good mama." Butch looked over at Gladys. "You swear?" She nodded, tearfully, desperately. Butch turned to Philip and gave him a half smile. "All right, time to say goodbye, Buzz." They shook hands like old friends, like equals, like running buddies. Casper the friendly ghost took a step toward the police line, then another, but halfway there he stopped, his little white costume trembling in the wind. He turned around and ran back to Butch, wrapped his arms around him one more time. He didn't care about the guns or the yelling or the danger. He was scared, but not of Butch. He was scared they'd take him away. Hand in hand, the two of them started walking slowly toward the police. Red stepped forward to meet them, lowering his own weapon. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Just put the gun down." Butch didn't flinch. "Ain't got no gun," he said. Boy threw it down the well. He reached into his jacket pocket for the postcard. But Bobby Lee, eyes glued to his scope, didn't see a message. He saw a threat. and without hesitation, he pulled the trigger. The crack of the rifle tore through the silence. Butch stumbled, eyes wide in disbelief, the paper fluttering from his hand like a wounded bird. He collapsed in the grass, and Philip screamed. Buzz didn't run. He knelt beside Butch, sobbing, refusing to let go. Gladys rushed forward to gather her son, but he didn't want her arms. Not yet. He wanted to stay with Butch, just a little longer. With the last ounce of strength he had, Butch pulled the boy close and pressed something into his palm, a crumpled piece of paper. The list. "Keep going," he whispered. "Do it all." And then, like the wind leaving the field, Butch was gone. The chaos didn't end there. Red, shaking with fury, stormed over to Bobby Lee and slugged him hard across the face. He was unarmed, he growled. But Sally didn't stop there. She stepped forward and kicked Bobby Lee straight in the groin, sending him staggering. "That was for everything else," she muttered. "I didn't know Sally had it in her, but sometimes justice comes with a side of karma and a steel-toed boot."